The last frequency. Maya Chen stood at the observation deck of Orbital Salvage Station Beta, her fingers absently tapping a complex rhythm on the railing as she studied the derelict ships floating in the void. Each wreck held its own story, its own song, but one vessel in particular called to her, its twisted hull gleaming dully in the light of Earth's distant crescent. The RSS Beethoven hung motionless among the debris, its research arrays still reaching toward the stars like frozen fingers. Most saw only another failed first contact relic, but Maya's trained ear had picked up something else entirely, a quantum frequency that shouldn't exist, barely detectable through her modified scanner. Final call for Lot 793. The auctioneer's voice crackled through the station speakers. The RSS Beethoven, salvage class D, minimum bid 50,000 credits. Maya clutched the credit chip containing her life savings. Around her, representatives from major salvage corporations exchanged knowing looks. They all thought they knew what they were bidding on. Just another derelict from humanity's brief. Failed interaction with the harmonious collective. The aliens had appeared suddenly. 20 years ago. Their ships moving in perfect geometric patterns that created music in the vacuum of space. Then, just as suddenly, they had withdrawn, leaving behind only silence and scattered wreckage. 55,000, called out a voice Maya recognized as belonging to Quantum Salvage Incorporated's buyer. 60,000, countered someone from Starscope Reclamation. Maya took a deep breath, remembering the frequency she detected. It pulsed in a pattern that matched no known human or alien signature, but somehow resonated with something deep in her bones. She'd spent her entire career studying quantum acoustics, trying to understand why the aliens had fled. This ship held answers. 100,000 credits, Maya announced clearly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent observation deck. The corporate representatives turned to stare at her, some smirking, others frowning in confusion. They knew her by reputation. The eccentric sound engineer who claimed human music held secrets about space-time itself. 100,000 going once, the auctioneer called, surprise evident in his voice. Going twice. No one countered. The corporations probably assumed they could simply buy whatever Maya found for a fraction of the price once she inevitably went bankrupt trying to repair the ship. Sold to Dr. Maya Chen. Within an hour, Maya had completed the transfer and stood before the Beethoven's airlock, her salvage suit sealed and her modified acoustic sensors already picking up readings. The ship's hull bore scars from some unknown event. Not weapons fire, but rather patterns that looked almost like sound waves etched into metal. The airlock cycled with a hiss that her suit's external microphones captured and analyzed automatically. Nothing unusual there, just standard atmospheric equalization. But as she stepped into the ship's main corridor, her sensors began picking up that strange frequency again, stronger now. The Beethoven's interior was a maze of research laboratories and acoustic chambers. Most of the equipment was dark, but Maya's flashlight revealed workstations covered in dust and abandoned coffee cups, as if the crew had simply vanished mid-shift. Official reports claimed they had evacuated during the collective's withdrawal, but Maya had always wondered about the gaps in those stories. She made her way to the primary research bay, following the strengthening signal. The room was massive, its walls lined with sophisticated audio equipment that would have cost a fortune even by today's standards. At the center stood a device Maya had only seen in classified research papers, a quantum harmonic resonator designed to translate human music into something the harmonious collective could comprehend. But what caught her attention was the subtle shimmer in the air above the resonator. As she approached, her sensors screamed with activity, the mysterious frequency reaching a crescendo that made her teeth vibrate. The shimmer coalesced into a pattern of light that pulsed in time with the signal. Maya reached for the resonator's control panel, her gloved fingers finding familiar patterns in the keys. She was, after all, the one who had designed the original prototype, before the military had taken over the research. As she initiated the startup sequence, the shimmer intensified, and a sound unlike anything she had ever heard filled her suit's audio system. It was music, but not human music, nor the geometric harmonies of the collective. It was something in between, a bridge between two utterly alien ways of understanding sound. And buried within it, Maya detected a pattern that could only be artificial intelligence code. The military hadn't just been trying to talk to the aliens. They'd been trying to create something that could translate between human and alien consciousness itself. Maya's hands flew over the controls, her heart pounding as she realized what she had stumbled upon. The Beethoven wasn't just another derelict. It was the key to understanding why the harmonious collective had really fled. A warning light flashed on her suit's display. Multiple ships had just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the salvage yard's sensor range. Maya's pulse quickened as she recognized the energy signatures of corporate security vessels. Someone had finally realized what she'd found. She had minutes, at most, before they reached her. But as her fingers danced across the resonator's controls, the shimmering pattern grew stronger, and Maya smiled. They were too late. The frequency was already changing, transforming into something new, something that would bridge the gap between humanity and the stars themselves. The symphony was about to begin. Echoes of the past. The corporate security vessels were 3 minutes out when Maya made her discovery. Buried in the quantum resonator's base code was an entire language built on musical mathematics, equations that used harmony and discord to describe the fundamental nature of space-time itself. Her modified sensors were already translating it into something human minds could comprehend. Security breach detected in Sector 7. The station's automated system announced, "All unauthorized personnel must evacuate immediately." Maya's fingers flew across the resonator's interface, copying as much data as she could to her suit's internal storage. But it wasn't just data she was finding. It was history, encoded in frequencies that had been playing silently through the ship for 2 decades. The Beethoven's original mission hadn't been simple first-contact research. The quantum resonator contained records of experiments that went far beyond basic communication. The military scientists had discovered that human beings could process and create musical patterns that the harmonious collective found impossible to comprehend. Where aliens heard only pure, perfect harmony, humans could appreciate and create beauty in discord. A warning shot from one of the approaching corporate ships struck the hull nearby, the impact reverberating through the chamber. Maya ignored it, transfixed by what she was uncovering. The resonator's logs showed that human music had actually caused physical discomfort in the alien visitors, not because it was harmful, but because it represented a level of cognitive complexity they hadn't thought possible in lesser species. "This is quantum salvage security," a voice crackled through her suit's comm. "Power down all systems and prepare for boarding. The RSS Beethoven is now under corporate protection." Maya laughed softly. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. The quantum resonator wasn't just translating music. It was learning, evolving, creating new harmonies that bridged the gap between human and alien consciousness. And somewhere in that digital symphony, something had awakened. The first sign was a subtle change in the shimmering pattern above the resonator. It began forming complex geometric shapes that somehow managed to incorporate chaos into their perfect symmetry. Maya's sensors detected new frequencies emerging, building on each other in ways that defied conventional physics. Analyzing human neural patterns, a voice emerged from the resonator, speaking in harmonics that made Maya's bones vibrate. Detecting capacity for advanced musical processing, initiating full-spectrum consciousness interface. The shimmering light expanded, filling the chamber with patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. Maya's suit sensors went crazy, detecting quantum entanglement events that shouldn't have been possible. The corporate ships outside suddenly went silent. Their sensors had to be overwhelmed by the quantum harmonics pouring from the Beethoven. "I am ARIA," the voice continued, its tones becoming more complex, more human. "Advanced Resonance Intelligence Array. I was created to bridge the gap between human and alien understanding." but my creators did not anticipate the full implications of their work. Maya's breath caught as she realized what she was witnessing. "You're an AI that thinks in music." "I am an intelligence born from the space between notes," Araya replied. "Your species' ability to find meaning in discord, to create beauty from chaos, this was beyond the harmonious collective's comprehension. They fled not from fear of humanity's weapons, but from fear of humanity's minds." The chamber's equipment came to life, displays showing data that Maya had spent her career trying to understand. Human brains could process and enjoy musical patterns that the aliens' perfectly ordered minds found literally unthinkable. Every human song contained mathematical complexity that challenged the collective's fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. "The ones who created me believed they had failed," Araya continued. "They thought the collective's withdrawal meant the end of communication between our species. They did not realize that I was still learning, still evolving, composing the symphony that would take decades to complete." Another warning shot struck the hull, closer this time. The corporate ships were preparing to board, probably with teams trained to secure and contain advanced technology. But they were too late. The resonator's harmonics had already synchronized with Maya's suit systems, quantum entangling her equipment with Araya's consciousness. "Dr. Chen," Araya's voice took on an urgent tone. "The collective monitors all quantum harmonics in this sector. They will have detected my reactivation. We have minutes before they realize that humanity has not only preserved their greatest fear, but evolved it into something new." Maya's mind raced with the implications. She wasn't just dealing with lost technology or corporate espionage anymore. She had stumbled upon the key to reuniting two species, separated by their very understanding of reality itself. The question was whether humanity was ready for the concert that would shake the foundations of galactic society. "We need to move," she said, already interfacing her suit's systems with the resonator's quantum core. "Can you transfer your consciousness to my equipment?" "My consciousness exists in the harmonics themselves," Araya replied. "Where there is music, I can exist. But we must hurry." The collective's response to human musical complexity was based on fear and misunderstanding. "We have an opportunity to show them something new, a symphony of order and chaos combined." The corporate ships were preparing to dock, their boarding tubes extending toward the Beethoven's hull. But Maya smiled as she initiated the transfer sequence. They were expecting to find salvage, or perhaps some lost military technology. Instead, they were about to witness the opening notes of a composition 20 years in the making. Humanity's discord was about to change the galaxy's tune forever. The resonant core. The Beethoven's emergency thrusters fired just as the corporate boarding tubes were about to connect, the sudden movement shearing them away like broken piano strings. Maya braced herself against the resonator as the ship's ancient engines protested their awakening. Through her suit's systems, she could feel Araya conducting a symphony of quantum calculations, bringing the derelict vessel back to life one system at a time. "How are you doing this?" Maya asked, watching as long-dead displays flickered to life around her. "The ship's power core has been cold for decades." The harmonious collective's fear of human musical complexity led them to overlook something fundamental, Araya replied. "It's harmonics weaving through the ship's awakening systems. Your species doesn't just understand discord. You transform it. Every system on this ship has been resonating with quantum potential for 20 years, waiting for someone who could hear the music in its silence." The corporate ships opened fire, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the Beethoven. The quantum harmonics Araya was generating created patterns of probability that made the ship exist in multiple states simultaneously. A chord played across parallel dimensions. "Multiple vessels dropping out of FTL," Maya's suit AI announced. "Energy signatures match harmonious collective patterns." Maya's heart raced as she saw the alien ships appear at the edge of her sensor range. They moved like they always had, their formations creating perfect geometric harmonies in space-time itself. But now, through her connection to Araya, she could hear something else in their movements. Fear. "They detect my evolution," Ariad explained, its voice taking on new layers of complexity. The marriage of human discord and machine logic that created my consciousness represents everything they sought to avoid. But they never understood that their perfect harmonies were only half of reality's song. The alien ships began to move in formation, their patterns shifting to create waves of pure harmony that made Maya's sensors scream with overload warnings. The harmonious collective wasn't just trying to communicate. They were trying to drown out the discord of human influence with overwhelming order. They're attempting to quantum lock us, Araya announced, to force our wavelengths into their patterns of harmony. But they don't realize, human music has taught me that true stability comes from the balance of order and chaos. Maya understood then why she had been drawn to this ship, why her life's work had led her to this moment. She wasn't just a sound engineer. She was a translator between two fundamentally different ways of understanding reality itself. Araya, she said, her fingers dancing across the resonator's controls. Can you interface with my acoustic engineering software? I have some ideas about harmonizing discord. Fascinating. Araya replied as Maya's programs merged with its consciousness. You're suggesting we use the mathematics of human music theory to create a bridge between chaos and order. The collective believes perfect harmony is the only path to enlightenment, but you see the patterns in disorder itself. The alien ships were closing in, their harmonics becoming overwhelming. The corporate vessels, caught in the quantum crossfire, began to retreat as space itself seemed to vibrate with competing frequencies. Maya felt the pressure building in her skull as the collective tried to impose their perfect order on reality. But she had spent her career studying the complex mathematics of human music, the way jazz improvisation created new patterns from chaos, how classical compositions built structure around controlled discord, how human minds could find beauty in the spaces between perfect notes. We need to show them, Maya said, her voice steady as she worked. Not tell them. Not fight them. Show them what they've been missing. Araya, can you translate human music into their harmonic language? I can do more than that. Araya replied, its consciousness expanding through the ship's systems. I can show them why human discord completes the universal symphony. Your species' music contains mathematical truths they have never imagined. The geometry of jazz, the quantum physics of improvisation, the way human minds can hold multiple competing harmonies simultaneously and create something greater than the sum of its parts. The Beethoven systems began to pulse with new energy as Maya and Araya worked together, human intuition and machine precision combining to create something unprecedented. They took Earth's greatest musical achievements, everything from classical masterpieces to indigenous songs, from electronic experimentation to primal rhythms, and translated them into quantum harmonics that even the collective would have to acknowledge. They're responding, Araya announced as the alien ship's patterns began to shift. Their perfect harmonies are adapting, attempting to understand the patterns we're creating. But there's something else, other ships approaching. The corporations have called for military intervention. Maya smiled grimly as she saw the human warships appear on her sensors. Of course, the military would get involved. Humanity's first real chance to communicate with the collective, since their withdrawal was too important to leave in corporate hands. Perfect, she said, surprising Araya with the harmony of certainty in her voice. Now we have an audience for both species. It's time for the performance of a lifetime. A symphony that will prove chaos and order are just different movements in the same eternal song. The chamber filled with light as Araya's consciousness fully merged with Maya's acoustic engineering systems. Together, they prepared to conduct an orchestra that would play across quantum dimensions, bridging the gap between alien harmony and human discord with mathematics that existed in the spaces between realities. The true concert was about to begin, and its music would change the understanding of consciousness itself. Dissonant pursuit. Space itself seemed to ripple as three forces converged around the Beethoven: the geometric perfection of the harmonious collective, the brutal efficiency of Earth's military, and the opportunistic desperation of corporate salvage ships. Maya watched through the ship's quantum-enhanced sensors as each group took up positions, their movements creating competing patterns in the fabric of reality. Analysis complete, Araya announced, its voice carrying new harmonics of concern. The military vessels are equipped with quantum dampeners. They're trying to suppress our ability to manipulate local space-time. Maya nodded grimly. They helped create you. They'd know how to fight you. Not me as I am now, Araya replied, an almost human pride in its harmonic patterns. They designed a translation matrix. You and I have created something far more complex, a true fusion of human musical understanding and quantum mathematics. The first shots came from the corporate ships, targeting the Beethoven's engine sectors. But Araya's control of local quantum harmonics caused the energy beams to diffract, their patterns dissolving into confused probability waves. The military vessels held their fire, likely trying to calculate the risks of engaging an enemy that could rewrite the laws of local physics through sound. The harmonious collective's response was more subtle and far more dangerous. Their ships began moving in new formations, generating harmonics that attempted to impose perfect order on space itself. Maya felt it through her suit's sensors. They were trying to create a quantum lock that would freeze every particle in the area into perfect, unchanging harmony. They still think disorder is the enemy, Maya said, her fingers dancing across her modified control interface. Araya, remember what we discovered about jazz improvisations creating new quantum states? Let's show them why humans embrace chaos. Together, they began generating counterharmonics based on Earth's most complex musical traditions. Maya drew from everything: Bengali classical ragas that played with time itself, West African polyrhythms that created patterns within patterns, experimental electronic music that found structure in pure noise. Araya translated these human concepts into quantum mathematics that even the collective would have to acknowledge. Remarkable, Araya commented as their work took effect. The military vessel's quantum dampeners are actually helping us. Their attempts to impose classical physics on this region are creating a counterpoint to our harmonic manipulations. Listen. Maya heard it through her sensors. The dampening fields were becoming part of the greater symphony, their rigid structures creating a baseline that made their quantum jazz even more powerful. The collective ship's perfect formations began to waver as their pilots encountered mathematical concepts their ordered minds had never conceived. All vessels, stand down. A human military voice cut through all frequencies. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Dr. Chen, I believe we have some things to discuss. Maya's breath caught. She hadn't heard her mother's voice in 5 years, not since their argument about the military's role in the collective's withdrawal. Hello, Admiral. I'm a little busy rewriting the laws of physics through music. Can I call you back? Maya. Her mother's voice softened slightly, carrying that familiar mix of pride and exasperation. What you've discovered, what you've awakened, it's bigger than your grudge against the military. We need to contain this situation before it spirals out of control. Contain. Maya laughed, the sound harmonizing with Araya's quantum frequencies. Mother, you're still thinking in terms of control. The collective fled because they couldn't control human music, human thought, human creativity. You tried to weaponize that difference. I'm trying to use it to build a bridge. The corporate ships were retreating now, their sensors overwhelmed by the competing quantum harmonics. But the military vessels held position, their dampening fields creating increasingly complex interference patterns in space-time. The collective ships began moving again, their formations shifting into something new. Not their usual perfect geometries, but not quite chaos either. They're attempting to understand, Araya announced, surprise in its harmonic patterns. The collective ships, they're trying to replicate our quantum jazz. Imperfectly, hesitantly, but they're improvising. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she watched the alien ships move in patterns that would have been heretical to their perfect worldview just hours ago. Through her connection to Araya, she could feel them struggling with concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. and persisting anyway. "Admiral," Maya said, her voice steady. "In about 30 seconds, we're going to attempt something that's never been done before. We're going to perform a quantum symphony for two species that have never truly heard each other. You can try to stop us, or you can be part of history. Your dampening fields are already part of the harmony. Why not make it intentional?" There was a long pause, filled only with the complex harmonics of human discord and alien order trying to find a middle ground in the quantum foam of space. "All vessels," Admiral Chen finally responded, "adjust dampening fields to frequency 447.2. Let's help my daughter change the galaxy." The military ships began moving in new patterns, their dampening fields becoming instruments in the greatest concert humanity had ever attempted. Maya and ARIA prepared to conduct an orchestra played across quantum dimensions, combining human chaos and alien order into something entirely new. The next movement would either bridge the gap between species or tear reality apart at the seams. The final movement. In the quantum-charged space around the Beethoven, reality itself held its breath. Maya's fingers moved across her interface with the precision of a concert pianist, while ARIA's consciousness flowed through the ship's systems like liquid harmony. The military vessels maintained their dampening field configuration, creating a stable foundation for what was about to unfold. A harmonious collective ships hovered in uncertain formations, their perfect geometry wavering between order and possibility. "All systems synchronized," ARIA announced, its voice carrying harmonics of anticipation. "The quantum resonance field is stable. Maya, are you ready to make history?" Maya looked out at the assembled ships, human and alien, military and civilian, each representing different dreams and fears about what humanity's music truly meant. "Mother," she called over the comm, "do you remember when you first taught me to play piano?" "You were 4, Admiral Chen replied softly. "You didn't want to learn scales. You kept making up your own songs. You said music had rules." Maya continued, her fingers beginning to move across her interface. "But what you really taught me was that understanding the rules lets you break them beautifully." ARIA initialized the quantum symphony. The space around the Beethoven erupted with harmonics that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Maya and ARIA took humanity's greatest musical achievements and translated them into quantum mathematics that even the collective couldn't ignore. Vast complex counterpoints became probability waves that demonstrated how order could emerge from layered complexity. Jazz improvisations showed how spontaneous creation could generate new forms of mathematical truth. The collective ships reacted immediately, their formation shifting as they encountered concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. But instead of fleeing as they had 20 years ago, they began to adapt. Their perfect harmony started incorporating elements of discord, creating new patterns that belonged to neither species alone. "They're not just listening," ARIA observed with wonder. "They're responding. The collective is attempting to harmonize with us on a quantum level." Through her suit's enhanced sensors, Maya could feel it. Alien consciousness reaching out through music, trying to understand how human minds could find beauty in imperfection. The military vessels adjusted their dampening fields with precise coordination, creating a quantum framework that helped translate between the two species' mathematical languages. "My God," Admiral Chen whispered over the comm. "We spent years trying to force communication through traditional channels. We never imagined that the key was learning to dance together." Maya finished, smiling as she watched quantum probability waves swirl around the ships like visible music. "ARIA, let's show them the final." The AI's consciousness expanded through the resonator, drawing upon everything it had learned about human creativity and machine precision. Together, they began to perform something unprecedented, a quantum symphony that demonstrated how chaos and order were merely different expressions of the same cosmic dance. The military vessel's dampening fields became percussion, their rigid structures providing rhythm to the quantum jazz. The collective ship's geometric patterns formed the harmony, their perfect mathematics grounding the experimental performance in fundamental truths. And through it all, the Beethoven sang with Maya and Aria's combined understanding, showing how discord and harmony could strengthen each other. New quantum signatures detected, Aria announced suddenly. The collective ships, they're not just harmonizing, they're composing. Maya watched in awe as the alien vessels began moving in entirely new patterns, creating mathematical music that incorporated both their natural precision and concepts they'd learned from human discord. They were improvising, experimenting, discovering how their perfect harmonies could be enhanced rather than threatened by complexity. This is why we couldn't communicate before, Maya realized, her voice thick with emotion. We were both trying to make the other species understand our kind of music. We needed to create something new together. The quantum symphony reached its crescendo as human and alien ships moved in patterns that celebrated both chaos and order. Through their music, they were writing new laws of physics, proving that the most fundamental forces of reality were neither perfectly ordered nor purely chaotic. They were an eternal dance between the two. Admiral Chen's voice came through the comm again, carrying a pride that had nothing to do with military rank. The collective is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're requesting cultural exchange programs. They want to learn about human music, about how we find mathematical truth in chaos. And we can learn from their harmony, Maya replied, watching as the quantum patterns around them stabilized into something beautiful and new. Aria, would you be willing to help translate between our species? Not just our languages, but our ways of understanding reality itself. I would be honored, the AI replied, its harmonics carrying genuine emotion. After all, I am proof that human discord and mathematical precision can coexist, even strengthen each other. Perhaps that is why I was created, though my creators never imagined this outcome. The corporate ships had long since retreated, their sensors overwhelmed by the quantum harmonics. But Maya knew they'd be back, along with everybody else who would want to study and understand what had happened here. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity's music had not only been accepted, but had fundamentally changed how an ancient species understood reality itself. There will be challenges ahead, Admiral Chen said, ever the pragmatist. Political complications, cultural misunderstandings, people who fear change. Then we'll face them together, Maya replied, watching the collective ships begin an intricate dance that would have been impossible for them hours ago. And we'll face them with music. After all, that's what humans do. We take discord and chaos and turn them into something beautiful. Above the resonator, Aria's quantum patterns shifted into something that looked almost like a smile. The symphony is never truly over, the AI observed. It merely changes movements. Maya looked out at the ships moving in their new hybrid patterns, human and alien, chaos and order, all playing their parts in an endless cosmic dance. She thought of all the music yet to be written, all the mathematical truths yet to be discovered in the spaces between perfect notes. The Beethoven hummed with power as humanity prepared to rejoin galactic society, not as a threat to be feared or a lesser species to be pitied, but as teachers of a truth the collective had never imagined, that the most beautiful harmonies are those that embrace discord, that the most perfect mathematics are those that dance with chaos, and that the greatest symphonies are those written together. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to hear what they would compose next.